kingdom.
The countdown going on right now. Morrow up to Schultz. 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes!
It's time for Dodger Baseball.
Welcome in to the Brawl Network podcast. Here's your host.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another live Thursday edition of the Brawl Network podcast. I am your producer, Jay Andrews. You can hit me up on Twitter at UPJ33. Our hosts tonight, as always, are the infamous Tim Rodriguez. Hit him up on Twitter at Tim C. Rodriguez. And the famous Bret Lagasse. Hit him up on Twitter at Bret Lagasse. I know, it's an original name. And hit us up on the Twitter at Network Brawl. And also follow, like, and share our Facebook page by searching the Brawl Network. Good evening, boys. How's it hanging?
Hey, good evening, Jay. Tim, how you fellas doing today?
Feeling great. What's up with you guys?
Short, shriveled, and a little to the left.
I actually knew that movie.
Just thought I'd throw you a curveball to start the show there, huh?
The FCC shutting us down.
Listener, go watch Liar Liar.
Oh, yeah. It's a classic. All right, get right into it. Training camp updates, because that's the biggest NFL news going around right now, and I know you guys got a ton to talk about. So you guys go ahead, get right at it. If you guys can battle it out of who wants to go first. No eye gouging or biting, though.
I'll start.
Whoa.
Sorry. Is it just me, or does it feel like there's been more injuries in the first day of camp than ever?
Yeah, actually, no, it feels like that. But, I mean, we shouldn't be surprised. No OTAs, no practices. I mean, it's just kind of like, hurry up, let's get ready for the season.
The Trey Waynes one with Cincinnati, he's going to be out for a good portion of the year. That's a killer, because that was already a pretty bad contract. And now he's going to be hurt on top of it. The first time in, like, the history of Cincinnati's franchise, they go out and spend some money in free agency, and this is what happens. Poor Joe Burrow. He's walking into a mess.
That is a shame, too, because Trey Waynes just started to come along in, Minnesota. And then he signed to the Bengals and gets hurt. You hate to see a player get hurt the first year with the team, too, for his sake and the team's sake.
Yeah, they took a huge gamble on him. They were really counting on that breakout year that he just never had in Minnesota, and now they won't get to see it till midseason. Yeah, and he flashed a little bit, and the potential's there. And anybody's watched him in college, potential's there. But he just never broke out, and now he's not going to get a chance to break out. But you talk about a team signing a player to help them and turn them around, and then lose them for the year is Gerald McCoy with the Cowboys. Yeah, that's a bummer.
Non-contact drill. He stepped back. In the video, it looked like he just kind of stepped wrong. It didn't look like he had a whole lot of force or anything. He stepped wrong, but he's out for the year. And that's a shame, too, because that energy that he brings and the leadership he brings, that's going to hurt Dallas's defense. They did draft Neville Gallimore and the year before Tristan Hill. So, I mean, they have some young players, and they still have Dontari Poe. But, I mean, I feel like Gallimore and Poe play the same kind of position in a sense. So they're going to need their young guys to step up. But that's definitely a blow. It's a shame to see Gerald McCoy go down like that, because he's one of my favorite interior defensive linemen.
Yeah, he quietly had a really good year in Carolina last year. It'll never show up on the stat sheet with Gerald McCoy, but his impact, I mean, you can't question that. And, we'll get into Dallas a little bit later, but Dallas was really reminding me of that 2017 Eagles team with how deep their defensive line is. I mean, that Eagles team went like 9 deep on the D-line, and these Cowboys, they just brought in a crazy amount of defensive linemen on the edge and the interior, and I was really loving their defense, and this is a big blow.
Yeah, and that was one of their biggest flaws, but we'll get into that a little bit more later on. But yeah, it's a shame to see because I actually like the signing, and you're right, he had a really good year, and that's the thing on defensive tackle. You don't always put up the prettiest numbers and the biggest numbers, but man, it's definitely an important position, and when they're playing well, the defense plays even better. So, and his presence was felt in Carolina, and I know the linebackers felt his presence. So.
Yeah, there are some positives of training camp, though. It's always fun to see, quotes from coaches, who's playing well, who's lighting it up, who's in, quote-unquote, the best shape of their life. And the guy I'm looking at is Baker Mayfield, quarterback, Cleveland Browns. I'm a big Baker guy. I was a big Baker guy before the draft, and it hurt to watch him play football last year. He wasn't good. And I'm looking at it because a lot of teams aren't allowing videotapes at practice. The Browns don't care. They've got like every play is being posted on Twitter. It's being live streamed. And I'm watching Baker play, and I'm seeing some of that fire that I saw in his rookie year that I just didn't see last year. So if Baker is all the way back to what his potential is, look out for the Cleveland Browns in that division.
Oh, and Baker has the potential to be a damn good quarterback. His ability to ad-lib and work off script, make plays off balance. That's what made him the number one overall pick. He has the ability to make things happen, and he always had that fire and energy and competitiveness. The biggest problem I had with him is sometimes he'd run hot and cold mentally. When you got in his head, sometimes he would have some issues. And I think last year he was riding high going into the season, which was great. And then he didn't know how to maintain that. And that was a lot on coaching, but he didn't know how to maintain that level of play on and off the field. And I think he learned his lesson. He learned after last year, the NFL is not going to give you anything. This is the Big 12 defenses you're going to face every week. The NFL defenses are going to be a lot tougher. And I think he realized that he has to prepare for the worst team in the league as the same as he would for the best team in the league. And I think he's learning that, and I think he's getting that spark back, and it seems like he's having more fun now that he has different coaching and all that. So it kind of sounded like the fun came out of football a little bit for him last year when the reality kind of hit him a little bit.
Yeah, the fun comes out of football when you're on TV constantly and your on-the-field play sucks.
I thought that was a theme for the Browns as a whole last year. They just didn't feel like a real NFL team. They almost felt like one of these fake football teams you see on TV. There was just too much.
They did have a Hollywood movie coach as their head coach, so. Freddie Kitchens is the name of a comedy football movie coach. Come on.
That is a completely made-up name. I agree with you. There's no way his real name is Freddie Kitchens.
I'm going to cook me up some offensive plays. I'm a chef in the kitchen.
That sounds like the name you give to the guy when you're trying to replace Refrigerator Perry in a movie, but there's a copyright infringement word.
I'm sorry.
Well, instead of Refrigerator Perry, we'll call him Freddie Kitchens.
And he didn't cook anything up with that playbook last year. I mean, just the routes they were running made no sense. Their offense felt like if we're not running the ball, we're going to have two deep routes and a check down. There was no creativity. Like before, when he was calling the plays Baker's rookie year, when they changed up the coaching staff at the beginning of the year, they were a fun offense to watch. And last year, it just felt like they were trying too hard to get Odell the ball down the field. And Odell wasn't healthy, and he wasn't creating the same separation that he had. And Nick Chubb was a monster, and they just refused to commit to him until the end of the year, where they're like, oh, man, we're like 4-7. We better start running the ball.
The one thing I noticed is they didn't really let Baker use his weapons the way he should. You have Jarvis Landry, who you can move around. You can maneuver him all over the place. I remember Jarvis Landry's last year in Miami. Adam Gase kind of used him all over the place and found ways to get him the ball, and he had the most touchdowns he had in any year of his career that year. And they didn't find ways to get him the ball last year. They didn't get him involved early. And if you go back to their tape in college, watching Odell and Landry, you watch those two work off of each other, and they did it naturally because they had so much chemistry together. And I was always shocked last year that the Browns just would not use that. They didn't let those two feed off each other. They didn't let Landry work underneath and kind of soften the defense up to allow Odell to do what he does. And then you're right, they try to force Odell to be that deep threat constantly. So Mayfield, while he didn't play the best, he didn't exactly get the best play designs, and some of it was very questionable, some of the play calling and situational play, and then Mayfield just kind of dealing with what he has to deal with. So overall, I'm actually excited to see what he can do this year with the new staff and new direction. But as long as he doesn't come in with the same mentality he did last year, I think he's going to be fine. I think that's why he's starting to bounce back. I think that's why he looks like he's in better shape too. I think that last year was just a wake-up call for him and the Browns, and let's see how they respond. That ought to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I think they could be a real force in the AFC. Obviously, everyone's picking Baltimore to win that division because the Ravens, from top to bottom have an unbelievable roster. But extended playoffs, I don't think it's crazy to see the Browns win 9 to 10 games and sneak in there. And they would be a tough out in January football because they are a physical football team when they want to be.
And, it's cold in Cleveland if they get a home game. So, and they can go on the road to another cold opponent and be able to compete. So, especially with Nick Chubb running the ball on the ground, that ought to be interesting to watch there.
Definitely. And speaking of running backs and running the ball, because as we all know, running backs don't matter. And Dalvin Cook is having that problem in Minnesota right now. Dalvin Cook wants to get paid. It's been the drama all off season. Will he hold out? Will he don't hold out? Well, he's practicing. He's not holding out, but they've kind of shut down negotiations between him and the Vikings. And I'm wondering, Bret, what do you think about Minnesota? Should they re-sign Dalvin Cook? Because I'm very much against giving him a big extension to a running back.
My biggest concern, I'm on the fence about that. If you have a player that can play regardless of position, you pay him. But Dalvin Cook had a very good year, but he's also had injuries. And he's showed that he's a dynamic back for them. He can be explosive for them. He can run the football. But, he's played, one full season? So, I know the injury wasn't definitely something that you could say is going to happen all the time. But, is he going to be 100% healthy? How long is that knee going to hold up? I understand with the limited productivity that Minnesota has seen from him that they don't want to sign him to a big deal. They're a little hesitant. But I can understand why he wants to get paid. He wants to get paid while he can. I'm actually for Minnesota being smart and not overpaying him and just kind of seeing how this year goes. Because if he gets injured again, Minnesota just reach on him for nothing. If he doesn't get injured again, has a monster year this year for them, then I think it's worth signing him again because that's 2 years of consistent play, and I think it's worth signing him back for that.
Dalvin Cook is your prototypical back, guys, that has all the talent in the world. I call these players GM nightmares, right? Because they're the type of player that if you, the team that signed them, drafted them, and has put up with their injuries, re-signed them, it seems that the injury bug keeps going, right? If you choose to let them walk away, like I've seen this with the Packers, Casey Hayward, they walk away and they never get injured again, and then they're all pros damn near at their position. So these types of players are GM's nightmares when it comes to these. And then you add on top of it, it's the running back position, makes it a very difficult kid because his talent is undeniable. He is one of the top 5 overall backs in the entire NFC and arguably the best back talent-wise in the NFC North. But he's injured all the time.
And just to add to that thought, Jay, looking at his numbers right now, his yard per carry average for his career is 4.6. It was 4.8 his rookie year, In 2018, it was 4.6, and this past season was 4.5. So that's a fantastic yards per average, and he has carried the ball 457 times.
You never end up in third and long if you give him the ball twice, basically.
Yeah, I mean he's explosive when he touches the ball, and Minnesota's a different offense when he's on fire, when he's hot, kind of like Dallas. When Zeke's hot, that offense is hot. So I mean, honestly, if Minnesota wants to build around him, that's fine. But I think they should wait at least halfway through the season, see how he does, how he is, if he's healthy, because he's never played a full 16 games in 3 years.
I think the important thing to remember in Minnesota, they're already kind of cap strapped. They're in a little bit of a transition here. They're prioritizing draft picks more and more because they just restructured Kirk Cousins' deal, and he's got a $45 million cap hit coming up soon. And I don't know about you guys, I'm not looking forward to paying Kirk Cousins $45 million to kind of win me a playoff game.
Hey, I can understand people not paying running backs, but I could never understand why teams would pay Kirk Cousins that much money.
$45 million.
But guys, this is what's happening though, and I said this a couple of years ago. There's going to be a line of demarcation as far as the cap increase and the increase amount of a quarterback contract. Now, on average, the cap is increasing about $12.5 million on average per year. Do you know what the average quarterback signing is for a franchise quarterback? Average increase per year? About $15 million. So you are actually still going in the whole $3 million over your increase paying these quarterbacks. So at some point, and we're getting there with Patrick Mahomes. The only reason the Patrick Mahomes deal isn't bad is because of the amount of outs and language that's written in there to protect them to be able to exit that with minimal problems, right? But overall, the amount that you're getting, if we get to the $50 million point for guys like Mahomes, Rodgers, Breeze, Brady, Ben, the elites or the guys can show up and win you games and get you to the promised land without a lot of help, that means you're going to start paying guys like Dak $35, $40, $45 million because they're always about $10 million, $5 to $10 million less, right? And that increase. So we're getting very close to a point where owners are going to end up at some point saying, we got to put a cap on not just everybody, but we got to put a cap on these quarterbacks because they're killing our cap. There is a awesome stat out there. No quarterback since the year 2000 accounting for more than 13.5% of the annual salary cap has walked away with a ring since 2000. So it doesn't matter how great you are. It hasn't happened. Not even with Aaron Rodgers.
And you know why?
Because you can't, the depth, it's not the starters, because you can pay the starters. It becomes the depth. You become the LA Rams. One guy goes down, you're done. You become the 2016 Green Bay Packers. Guys go down, there's nobody left to help them.
I was just about to bring up the Rams because the Rams are going with this philosophy of stars and studs. The Rams have no depth anywhere. You can take the Rams' 22 starters. There's about 3 of them where you could say, we can survive him going down. But they couldn't even survive like Michael Brockers going down because now we can pay so much attention to Aaron Donald, we can essentially take him out of the game.
Well, the problem with Aaron Donald is, as great as a disruptor and pass rusher he is, he still gets washed easily. And I don't care if you got a double team. Every interior defensive lineman in the run game gets double teamed. That's how they play the run game. They smack you up front, and it gives one guy to open up a hole and disengage and get up. There's not one defensive lineman. I watched Tyler Lancaster, number 95 of the Green Bay Packers. I nicknamed him Billy Bob, right? Because that's what he reminded me of Varsity Blues. Just a big, fat, white guy out there with no athletic talent, just to plug a hole, right? And he got double-teamed constantly by who? The San Francisco 49ers. Now, you can take one guy and push him over. He's just a big, fat guy out there on the field, right? But they still double-teamed him. So that argument that, Aaron Donald's good, because no, that's just how you run the ball. You identify what hole and what place, what gap you want to attack, and you attack it, over-attack it, and make sure that that's where the runner can go. It doesn't matter the caliber of player. That's just how it is. And so, yes, Aaron Donald and all that, it's exactly what you said, Tim.
Yeah, and thinking about those Packers, they made the NFC Championship game just because, in 2016 I'm talking about, not this year. They made the NFC Championship game just because Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. Look at the starting players from that NFC title game against Atlanta and take out Aaron Rodgers. That is like a 4-12 football team.
3-13.
They weren't good.
After the closing of the first quarter, the starting right guard on the offensive line for the rest of the game was the starting defensive tackle, LaTroy Guion, formerly of the Minnesota Vikings. And had Geronimo Allison not fumbled the ball on the 20-yard line, and prior to that had Aaron Ripkowski not fumbled the ball on the 7-yard line, that would have been a 21-21 game. Think about that.
That was a close game for a little bit.
Ladarius Gunter was not even active on the roster until like middle of the season, and he came off the streets. And that was their starting outside number one corner. The rest, I got a phone call that season to ask if I could still backpedal.
Well, Julio Jones was unbelievable in that game because of that.
Mm-hmm.
This season started back when, like, the first team I noticed this happened to was the Ravens back in 2012.
Yep. After
they signed Flacco, and they started losing players, and then the Seahawks, it really happened to them. So now the whole mantra is win while your quarterback's on a rookie deal, because after that, it's going to get harder and harder to build a team. And you're right, Jay. I think the owners are going to start having to figure this out, saying, hang on, we're going to have to change the way the quarterback's cap hits because we have to pay these guys because they're so hard to find. But then we got to pay the rest of the team too. And it's getting harder and harder. I just don't want to see the NFL go to no cap because at that point, then things start getting a little wishy-washy and all that. Although the cap seems to be a myth according to the Kansas City Chiefs. So I don't know.
It doesn't exist. It's fairy dust. It's not real. The salary cap does not exist for the Kansas City Chiefs.
It's all terminology, fancy lawyer talk, mumbo-jumbo. That's how they get away with it.
Well, it didn't exist for the New England Patriots for a long time. They're paying Tom Brady $70 million a year, but he was only a $12 million cap hit. So.
Well, you know who else the cap doesn't really affect too much is the Cowboys. And the Cowboys somehow always seem to find ways to pay players. Like, it's still possible they could sign Dak even after signing Zeke and all that, which I don't know how. But the Cowboys actually signed a few players that actually fit there, other than Gerald McCoy got hurt. But I like the Everson Griffin signing they had. They signed a few players to help them with the issues that they had defensively. And I didn't think they really had much money to sign anybody. They even got HaHa Clinton Dix. So,
oh my God! All they're going to do is watch him destroy people on. Oh, never mind. He doesn't destroy people. He blows coverage on crossing routes. And then 99.9% of HaHa Clinton Dix's interceptions came because he accidentally was around the ball when it was tipped in the air. Or it was, he was just standing somewhere in the secondary, and the quarterback happened to throw it 20 yards in the wrong direction.
Hey, it's better to be lucky than good sometimes, right?
It happens.
But no, I like the fact that I actually like him in Mike Nolan's defensive system now. I think he fits pretty well there. But it's still an improvement from what they've had because their safeties have been a thorn in their side for a while. They've been kind of questionable for some time now.
I think what Tim's greater point is, and what he's really nailed on the head here, is that those teams that all have that, now look at the Kansas City Chiefs. They are paying everybody. There's no depth there.
Yeah.
They're going to start losing their depth, and they're going to have to hope that those late-round draft picks, much like the Packers after 2010, when you start getting in those late, you hope that they hit. You hope your mid-tier, your mid-round guys can become stars quickly, And so, but more often than not, we see what Tim is alluding to. The injuries start to happen, and yes, it's on paper. That's not how you win Super Bowls. The Packers won a Super Bowl with 27 guys on IR that had started at least 2 games that season. Okay, 21% of their starting roster from week 1 by week 6 was on IR.
I do remember that.
And they won the Super Bowl going the second 6 seed to make it all the way through on the road. So that shows like it wasn't the superstars. You know, one of the best receivers that was unknown in the Super Bowl that year was Jordy Nelson, who didn't have a really great season that year. You know, like, but he blew up for 147. Like, you know, Donald Driver went down, Charles Woodson went down. Like, even in the Super Bowl, they had to pick up with guys that were way over their skis in the roles they were being asked to play.
No, you're absolutely right, and they kind of overcame it, but it's because they had the depth and they had the players in position they needed where they needed them. And if you look at different teams that had to overcome that, they overcame it because of depth. And now the only team that seemed to consistently find ways to plug holes was New England. And that's because they were able to find other teams' castaways and make them work.
I will argue over the last 5 years, even though there's been Super Bowl wins and stuff, I think from consistency and how they want to play, right? I think the Seattle Seahawks, as much as I hate them, they have done it the best.
So you guys want to know why New England is so good?
But their offensive line has been bad. Go ahead, Tim.
Let me tell you what New England does, and I love it, and I wish that other teams would do this. And Dallas kind of did it this offseason. Bill Belichick seems to be the only general manager in the NFL who understands this compensatory pick formula, and that's why he's picking 10 times every year. It's a perfect example. Trey Flowers, the defensive lineman, really good football player. They let him walk. They get a third-round compensatory pick back the next year in the back pocket. They trade a 7th-round pick to get Michael Bennett, another very good football player. They gave up nothing to get Michael Bennett. They replaced Trey Flowers, and they put a 3rd-round pick in the back pocket. And they just keep doing this cycle, and that is why they're just deep. They're deep everywhere except quarterback. They didn't have a backup quarterback last offseason.
Tim, Bret, I have a theory about the New England Patriots that I have been working on, and I'm going to debut it right now because I think what you just said is the time.
Do
you really want to know why Bill Belichick is such a mad genius that nobody can figure it out? Because dude secretly is the champion Twitch Madden player franchise. He's just playing Madden, buddy. Just playing Madden. That's all he's doing, really.
That's what
just
what
playing
it feels
Madden.
like.
He just, you know what? I'm going to trade this guy. The computer will let me trade for this name and not let me give anything. I'll do it. Whatever. Trey Flowers is an 88. You go pay him $75 million because you know what? He's never had double-digit sacks. Solid player, not a $17.5 million elite player. He plays Madden. I swear the guy just sits around and plays Madden, tests out his theories on Madden, wakes up and says, this works, this doesn't, and then goes and does it in reality. There's no other way to figure out how the hell he's figuring out how to do this. He's got something there. That's my theory. He's a Madden player.
Hey, I don't think there's another coach that could have a Hall of Fame all-time great player like Rob Gronkowski retire and then the following year go 12-4. It doesn't happen.
Oh, by the way, he also trades that retired player for a 4th-round pick. To your point, Tim.
He should have gotten O.J. Howard in that deal. I don't know what happened in that deal. If I'm Bill Belichick, I'm like, you're going to give me O.J. Howard because he's going to be your 3rd tight end, and it makes no sense.
Yeah, exactly. But I tell you what, I watched them. I think it was the year they won the Super Bowl against the Rams. But they let LeGarrette Blount walk. He walks, or it was against Seattle, I can't remember. But anyway, he walks. They get a compensatory pick for him. The formula was already done. They get a compensatory pick for him. He was then released. The Patriots signed him again and went on to win the Super Bowl with him. So they get a compensatory pick with a player that's still on their roster. That was just way out of the box thinking. Belichick saw the opportunity to sign him. So he's already got a compensatory pick for this guy, then turns around and signs him, and signing a free agent doesn't go against the compensatory formula. He got the same player back. He finds the loopholes, the gray area that nobody likes to dabble in because of these unwritten rules. And don't get me started on that, the whole thing with baseball. But he plays in that unwritten rule area that other people are afraid to do it. And you know what? That's why he wins, because he's not afraid to do what's necessary to win. And I'm not saying he's cheating by doing it. I'm just saying he's doing this stuff that what all these gentleman agreements are. He just kind of looked at him like, dude, this is football. Let's go. Let's play.
And what else he's doing, he brings in a lot of free agents after the deadline that they count for compensatory picks, which is like the Monday after the NFL draft. Like right now, you could sign Jadeveon Clowney and the Seahawks will not get a compensatory pick. And Bill Belichick is a master in that area. He made Jamie Collins a damn good football player. Jamie Collins goes to Cleveland, is garbage. Jamie Collins comes back, helps them win another Super Bowl, helps them win another division title, goes signs a big deal in Detroit, and now New England's getting another compensatory pick for Jamie Collins. And you know what? He's probably not even going to be good in Detroit. I mean, Belichick's a mad genius.
And then the players love Belichick for it because they're getting paid. They're getting paid because of how well they played in New England. You know what I mean? So it's a win-win. They go want to get paid just to repeat that success, and if it doesn't repeat, hey, they still got the money. So from a player perspective, that isn't so bad.
Now, obviously, this year is a little different for Belichick, so I want to ask you guys, put a number on it. I know it's hard. With this roster that he's got right now, how many wins would be impressive for Bill Belichick this season?
I'd say 10. It sounds crazy.
I think with everything that they lost with the opt-outs and everything, honest to God, with you look at that roster, QB and flux, there's nothing stable about that franchise right now but Bill Belichick. I think when you look at it, not saying that they would actually do this, I think anything over 9 wins starts to prove that Bill Belichick is the genius we all thought he was. This roster's a freaking hot mess after all those COVID exits. Like, those were key players on his defense, which is what he is. That's always, like, as great as Tom Brady is, and I'm not here to bag on him or get into that conversation at all. What I'm here to do is to tell you that look at the defensive statistics for the 18 or 19 years Tom Brady was there. There's a reason why it was, Tom could do what Tom needed to do, and now Bill really doesn't have that. Like, there's been some messy years, but, like, he's lost a lot of his core key veteran guys that he knows and that are there all the time and are dependable. And so, to me, that identity of that team now without Tom Brady was going to depend on the defense. A lot of COVID exits. I think anything over 9. Now, I expect them to win 10. I'm just saying, like, in all honesty, I think 9 wins starts to really prove what we've all been debating. Is it Tom and I'm not saying it's not Tom. I'm just saying I think it starts to show us that there is a good validity to the argument that it is the Bill Belichick genius.
Well,
I can agree with that.
Yeah, the way I'm looking at it is I think this season for all teams with such little bit of time to prepare your offense, we're going to see the teams that are the best in the trenches really come out this year. And New England's got like 2 returning starters from their defensive front. If Bill Belichick goes 500 with the team with no front 7 from last year, they bring him back Jawan Bentley, the 2-down run-stuffing linebacker, and Lawrence Guy, who's very consistent. But he's got a quarterback he signed last month and is expecting him to start. If Bill Belichick goes 500 with this team, that's one of his biggest accomplishments ever, which is saying a lot for a guy who's got 6 Super Bowls as a head coach and 2 as a coordinator.
I think the one thing that we're going to overlook here is I know they lost some pieces in the offensive line, but that offense with Josh McDaniels and Belichick, the way they work together and having Cam Newton, I still think that offense might surprise some people, but I think it might look a little different. I think it might be very run heavy. So, and I think Belichick's not afraid to go to that because he did do that. He went run heavy and used their fullback constantly. So
another theory.
I think they'll.
There's another theory.
I think they'll be okay. Oh boy, I gotta hear this theory.
And it's not really a theory. This is really my take, and it's one of my bold predictions. And it goes right back around to what Tim was saying and my joke about Madden. He did not sign Cam Newton to be his starting quarterback. Bill Belichick is a film and a football savant. A quarterback like Cam Newton he doesn't want to play the run game. That's why he loved Tom Brady, because he could go 9-9-9 down the field. He could check it down. He could play. He could do whatever he felt was necessary. Now he's going to have to cater an entire offense every week to be the same for Cam Newton, who is at best a 50% completion guy over his career. 2015 is the anomaly. Okay, so if you do something for 14 seasons, right, or for 10 seasons that are all the same, and you have one, what are you? The one season or the 9 or 10 that are the same? And that's what Cam Newton's career has been. Everybody wants to tell me about Cam Newton in his 2015 season. And I say, great, that's okay. I'll look at the other 9. That's who he is. Just above 55%, hit or miss anything under 15 yards. And if the guy is wide open running down the field by design, he can make a guy like Ted Ginn Jr. look like he's freaking Julio Jones. I honestly believe that Belichick signed Cam Newton because it was not a big cap hit. He's going to prove to everybody in the league that he is healthy enough to be able to play and contribute. And before the trade deadline, he will trade Cam Newton for a minimum of a third-round pick.
Wow. Now, this is what I'm thinking with New England. And the reports are that they're not catering the offense to Cam because there's just such little bit of time. But if Cam is there in 2021, this is something that I think everyone overlooks because it happened a long time ago and it was very short. When Josh McDaniels was the head coach of the Denver Broncos, in the first round, he drafted Tim Tebow because he wanted a mobile quarterback offense. And if you give Cam, while healthy, that's the caveat, he needs to be healthy, a full offseason in Josh McDaniels' Tim Tebow type of offense, as a Dolphins fan, I'm terrified. Terrified to my core because I know Josh McDaniels is another one of those little evil geniuses, and the only reason he's not a head coach right now is because he has bad people skills.
I'm going to add one thing to that, and that offense was already going in place to be that style before Cam Newton because of Jarrett Stidham and his ability. He has some legs, too. He has some wheels. So I do agree that I think that's the style of offense they'll probably go to, which is why I think they're going to go run heavy, and they're going to use a quarterback to run a little bit more. So it's going to look a lot different than we're used to seeing in New England. But I've said it before, the Cam Newton signing is a similar quarterback to Jarrett Stidham, so it just gives them two quarterbacks that they can build around and build an offensive system around. So that way if one goes down, next guy up, just like they normally do.
They're going to RPO and zone read teams to death, and they're going to try to win game 14-10.
And look at their backfield. Their backfield actually is pretty solid. Pretty solid. They're
all brought in Lamar Miller.
Is concerned. Yeah. That sucks.
And the interior of the offensive line is probably the best in the NFL. It's the tackles I'm concerned with Marcus Cannon opting out and Isaiah Wynn never being healthy since he left Georgia.
Yeah.
But the interior, those guys are studs. Tooney, Mason, David Andrews, if he's healthy, this is going to be a power football team.
I'm actually, believe it or not, because I love offensive line play, if Wynn's healthy, I'm really excited for Mason and Wynn together. I'm really excited to watch those two next to each other. But I don't know if Wynn can stay healthy, that'd be really fun to watch. Long term.
All right, quickly, because we're running out of time very fast because we've had some great conversation tonight. So we want to get to a round the sports world update, but quickly, did you guys have any trade rumors?
Yannick Ngakoue, where will he land? We don't know. Seattle makes the most sense in my opinion, but I don't know what they have left for picks.
And they can't extend him. They're broke.
Yeah. And Baltimore
I think it's the Jets.
Can they afford him? Well,
I think it's the Jets.
Yeah, because the Jets do have a big cap opening because of Mosley opting out. So that contract goes off of their cap. They regain that cap hit so they can actually afford to do something because Mosley's also in his second year, and we know how these contracts are. There's usually a 2-year. It's really 2 years, and then after that, and he's been injured both years. So there is a chance here that's an excellent choice, Tim. I think that might be the front runner because of the cap space, the need there, the young team and the ability to be able to exit from a large contract and just circumvent that to another guy, basically, in Ngakoue. I'm talking about getting rid of Mosley at this point now.
And I think after they go 2-14 or 3-13 in 2020, they're going clean rebuild. Gase is gone. Wouldn't be surprised if Sam Darnold is gone. And let's start fresh. New quarterback, new coach. And now we've got a franchise pass rusher in Yannick Ngakoue, and we still got a ton of picks.
Only 2 years of Sam Darnold?
It would be 3. I wasn't a Sam Darnold guy when he came out for the draft. I'm just not impressed with what I'm seeing. I haven't seen any improvement since like his sophomore year at USC. I think he's been the same player or worse.
I think they go the Jared Goff route and sign a guru.
we're gonna end the show with a question about a young quarterback that kind of falls in the mind of the Dalton to me. But anyway, let's for the last couple minutes of the show, let's go around the rest of the sports world and just update everybody on what you guys got from the different places. You got the NBA playoffs and the bubble. MLB still a hot mess. So what's going on your guys' notes?
Like I said last week, Los Angeles Lakers, I'm concerned. And they go and they drop game 1 to the 8 seed Blazers. The other game 2, is going to start in about 20 minutes. And unless they can find...
Is that on ESPN or
Yes, ESPN.
ESPN, all right. Because I'm going to tune into that one. Because Dame Lillard is won my heart, man. I haven't seen a guy that size with that much just... I'm afraid he's gonna one up Giannis and bite somebody's nose off one of these times. He is an angry little man, I have not seen since Allen Iverson was in the league. He reminds me of Allen Iverson, and I loved me some AI. So I am a huge Dame Lillard fan. I talked about this on Tuesday night, morning with Anna at Anna_Lewis35 from the Titans Brawl. She's on Tuesday nights, but we discussed that. Dame Lillard, I'm tuning in tonight. And I know it's goofy and I've had a hard time, but that guy I got to watch him play, man. I got to watch him play.
Hey, it's something I've always said in the playoffs, watch out for the hot team. And nobody was hotter in sports than the Portland Trailblazers. And because of Dame Lillard. And Dame Lillard's on fire. So the Lakers are going to have a hard time trying to slow him down.
If the Lakers don't find some offense from somebody not named LeBron James, they are in some trouble. Because, Anthony Davis scored 24 points, but he shot 33%, which I don't know if you guys know this, is awful. It's really bad.
That's bad. That's like a 150 in baseball, man.
It's terrible. He's Danny Green,
he's got to step
Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, you guys have one job, and it is to hit open threes when LeBron driving kicks, and they're not doing it. KCP had 1 point in 31 minutes of basketball. 1.
Now, I'm going to touch on something with baseball real quick, and I'm going to leave it with this statement. Stop with the unspoken rules. Tatis, my hat's off to you for that grand slam. Down. He had that. Yeah, he had 3 balls, 0 strikes. Whatever. You're losing by 7. Here's an idea: play better, pitch better. He hit a home run, hit a grand slam, drove in 4 more runs with 2 innings left. You know what? Deal with it. You don't like it? Change your pitcher. Don't be complaining and all that, stomping your feet. You lost. Get over it. Man up. We lost. Let's play better next time.
Major League
There's unspoken
Baseball
rules of baseball.
Is the only sport, baseball in general, the only sport that accentuates, highlights, and pushes unsportsmanlike conduct overall.
Yeah. And to a
everything about those unwritten
level.
rules is stuff that you would tell your kid. Like, as a parent, if you saw your kids doing this in any other sport, you'd be whooping their ass. Excuse my language. And giving them a talking to afterward. Like, that is not how you... When a guy hits you, that's hard to hit. You do not try to hit him in the head with the hardest ball you can throw. What are you thinking, young man?
Right.
Like that, and if you did that in the streets and a cop saw you, well, and the guy ends up in a hospital, that's attempted manslaughter, assault with a deadly weapon. Like,
You want to know the best way to avoid having the opponent hit a grand slam when they're up 7? It's like a 3-step process. A, don't get down by 7. B, don't let the first 3 batters get on base. C, don't make it a 3-0 count. And finally, don't throw me an absolute lollipop when it's 3-0 and I'm the hottest hitter in baseball right now.
And don't expect anybody to give you anything. No one's going to give you a strike. If you're going to give him a gift, if I were him, I'd take it too. Because it's hard to get out
These
of the
are
slump,
adults.
So.
It's not Pee Wee baseball with a mercy rule.
That was my rant.
Yes. Can I ask you guys this question? Do you guys feel like baseball with these unwritten rules and the way they treat young players that are exuberant, like I use Yasiel Puig all the time. To me, baseball's unwritten rules destroyed him as his talent to me still hasn't went anywhere. I think it's all mental, and it's all mental because of the freaking unwritten rules that they've done, and they've trucked him around teams. I think baseball is responsible for destroying more Hall of Fame potential talent mentally than it is that the guy just as physically can't do it anymore. That's my opinion.
I'm going to say this. I 100% agree with you, and it's the reason I don't watch baseball because Yasiel Puig and Tatis, these are the reasons why I would tune into baseball to watch these guys because they're electrifying to watch. But the way baseball handicaps them makes it very boring and makes me not even want to watch anymore. And I used to love baseball growing up, but now I don't even watch it as an adult. And it's because of baseball. And they're ruining their own watchability.
Let me tell you something. As the only person in this podcast who, A, does not have children, and B, whose birth year starts with a 2, I'm going to speak for the younger generation. My generation can't stand baseball. I love baseball because I love sports, but people my age cannot sit down and watch a baseball game unless it is like the World Series.
That's because people your grandfather's age are running it.
The only baseball I watch is my son playing in a youth league. And I'm coaching. So I'm out there telling kids, go, 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 slide. So I'm in the game, okay? So that's why it's interesting. Other than that, I fall asleep. I'll try to get my son. Let's watch some baseball because I know he's into it. 3 minutes in, before the pitcher can go through his 90-minute routine before he throws the ball, I am drooling on myself in the lazy boy. So it's just not a sport I can get into. I can't.
They're suffering. They're really suffering.
But this is why. Hey, bring that bad boy personality back, and maybe we'll actually be able to watch it and have some fun with it.
All right, we got to wrap this up, so I want to end on this question, guys. This is because I've asked the guys last night. We talked about it a little bit. I'm going to do it to you guys. All right. What do you think of the number 1 overall pick in Joe Burrow this year, of his career? What is your opinions on him when you watch him and see him and project him into this league?
Can you duplicate his success from college? His offense was catered to him in a good way. That's not a bad thing. Can you duplicate that success? Can you give him everything that they gave him in college to repeat that success? And that should go to any quarterback. But if you give him those timing routes like that, if you give him those layered routes like they have in New Orleans, which is the same offense they ran there, if you can give him that, I guarantee you Joe Burrow can have a very successful career. But if you can't, he may have more like a Chad Pennington style career. So it just all depends. But his fire, his moxie, I mean, it's there. And as long as he maintains that, I think he has a very good chance to have a damn good career.
I'm going to upset a lot of people with this take.
Go ahead, Tim.
In 5 years, we're going to look back on this draft and say Joe Burrow is QB3. He's not as good as Tua, and he's not as good as Justin Herbert. I'm very concerned about a player who couldn't even get recruited by the school both of his brothers were playing for and couldn't beat out Dwayne Haskins in a quarterback competition, who, by the way, I don't know if you guys have been looking at some of the Washington football team things on Twitter. Alex Smith, coming back from not playing for almost 2 years, looks 10 times better than Dwayne Haskins does right now.
He did beat out Haskins and then broke his hand.
That is true. But even year 1 at LSU, this is the way I look at Joe Burrow. He wasn't excellent until his conditions were absolutely perfect. And that's what I got to say about Joe Burrow. I'm not a fan. I hope he's good because I want more good quarterbacks in the NFL. But if I was Cincinnati, I would have been trading out of that pick, getting a bunch of other picks, and taking one of Tua Tagovailoa or Justin Herbert.
See, and I'm going to go even further to piss people off because this has been my take, and even Bridge from the Brawl Network told me I was insane and need to go back and learn how to watch tape. And I just kind of laughed at him and said, that's your opinion. He screams bust. Screams bust to me when I see this. And I'm not talking 5 years from now. I'm talking not making it out of his rookie contract bust. When I
like Josh Rosenbad?
Maybe not that extreme because I think Cincinnati's so desperate they're going to hang on to it. Whereas, I think Josh actually is a better quarterback arm talent wise than Burrow. He just is. Watch the film. Joe Burrow is not going to be able to have a Justin Jefferson moss a guy and pick the ball out of the air 2 feet in front of the DB he's jumping over. That's an interception. He does not have the arm strength, and he was down in LSU. Do you know how many awesome plays that all the analysts, including Bridge, who we love, are screaming about? And when I watch it, I go, that ball's short. That's a great play by the receiver, but that ball's short. It's going to get picked off. Or that is an excellent play and bad placement and timing on the throw by him. He's not going to get away with that in the NFL. He screams bust. When you double, almost triple your touchdown ratio and your interception ratio still kind of stays the same, and you like improve by almost over 50% your completion percentage down the field and all this in 1 year, like you said, just because of perfect conditions, that screams bust. And all this moxie and stuff, is Chad Pennington a bust? He had moxie. What was his name down there in the Houston Texans for a long time before he became the pick six king? I can't remember his name now.
Matt Schaub.
Matt Schaub had a ton of moxie. I don't give a shit about moxie. Moxie don't win you games, okay?
Chad Pennington and Schwab are basically who Joe Burrow is.
Yes.
And will it be
and
good thing
Pennington
or bad thing? We'll see.
Pennington had the rushing champion behind him for several years in Curtis Martin.
And then Ricky Williams.
Yep, and he also had John Abraham and all kinds of great defensive talent too. So Joe Burrow doesn't have that in Cincinnati.
No, and that's why I said if they could duplicate everything in Cincinnati, he could be damn good. But if not, if you can't build offense around him, it might not be so pretty.
All right, guys, final word. We got to get out of here. We already went over a little bit. That's my fault.
Yeah, that's all right. Final word. Baseball, stop the unwritten rules.
Stop it. It's got to stop.
And I will third that. I think everybody wants to tell baseball, grow the hell up. And with that, we're on it.
Let the kids play. That was their whole campaign last year. Let the kids play. And as soon as the kids want to play, they want to stop the kids from playing.
That's right. Let the kids play. Hit us up on the Twitter. He is at Tim C. Rodriguez. He is at Bret Lagasse. I am at UPJ33. Hit the show up on the Brawl Network, at Network Brawl. Follow, like, and share our Facebook page by searching the Brawl Network. And hit us up on the Instagram by searching Network Brawl. We love y'all. I'll be back one more time tomorrow night. We've got Micah and Kyle. We'll be on at about 8 p.m. Love you guys. Have a good night. Peace out.
Now look me in the eyes and put your hand in mine. Forever's about to happen right here in this moment of time. So let's draw a line right here in the sand. And letting me say that on this very day is the day that we took a stand. Cause not just a game, it's more than a game, it's more than the hurt, it's more than the pain, it's more than the glory, it's more than the fame. This right here is about legacy, man, so it's bigger than me, it's bigger than us. We can lose sight in the midst of the fuss, let's slow it down and take it in. Enjoy this moment, what's the rush? They wanted back, but we wanted more. This is what we've been waiting for. With tears in our eyes, we let our hearts roar. Unleash war when we walk out this door. We won't be delayed, we won't be denied. In the end, we won't refuse with clear eyes, a full heart. There's no way that we can lose. Clear eyes.